Hi everyone, how is everybody? Are you guys all doing good? Okay, that's good. My name is Aline Villoria and I'm gonna be your tour guide for today. And before I start, do you guys have any idea where we're heading? Yes, that is correct. We are heading to the Sistine Chapel. Now we're gonna talk about some couple of restrictions that we have to keep in our mind while we are at the Sistine Chapel. The first rule that we have to follow is that no alcoholic drinks in the chapel. The second one is no immodest clothing to respect the chapel, and no flash photography. And lastly, we are not allowed to touch any of the artwork, and all photography and video filming are illegal in Sistine Chapel. So make sure to keep in mind all of these restrictions. So we are all good to go to the chapel. And before I start, do you guys have any idea where we're heading? Yes, that is correct. We are heading to the Sistine Chapel. So while we are heading to the attraction that we're going to, I'm gonna give you guys a little information. So, the Sistine Chapel is a huge chapel in the Vatican City, and it is known for its Renaissance art, especially the ceiling painted by Michelangelo. And as we all know, it attracts more than 5 million tourists each year. And in 1477, a pope named Sixtus V revealed the chapel, and the Sistine Chapel is a rectangular brick building with 6 arch windows on each of the 2 side walls. Okay, so the chapel's exterior is simple and modest, and it's giving a little hint on the decoration inside the chapel. And then Pope Sixtus hired famous painters including Botticelli and Rosselli to paint the chapel. That time, the ceiling was painted sky blue with stars only. And in 1503, the new pope named Julius II decided to change some of the chapel's design, and then asked Michelangelo to do it. And then Michelangelo began working on his famous frescoed ceiling in 1503, and took him almost 4 years to get it done. And then, 20 years later, Pope Clement VII commissioned Michelangelo to paint the huge fresco called the Lost Judgment behind the altar. Okay, now moving on to Michelangelo's painting. The first one we have here is called The Ceiling. On this artwork, he portrayed 9 parts from Genesis, including the drunkenness of Noah, the separation of light from darkness, and the most famous panels are the creation of Adam and the fall of man and the expulsion from paradise. Okay, moving on to the next artwork called The Last Judgment. It is described the second coming of Christ, and the good ones or the blessed ones are on the right and heading to heaven, while the bad ones are on the left being sent to hell. And now we're gonna talk about some facts about the Sistine Chapel. The first one is that the chapel has the same dimensions as the Temple of Solomon as described in the Old Testament. The second one is that Michelangelo reluctantly accepted to paint the chapel because he considered himself a sculptor and not a painter. And then the third one we have here is Michelangelo struggled physical strain of the work and even wrote a poem called About Ready Grown Glitter from this torture. Okay, and then the next one we have here is the chapel is used as the Pope's private chapel, and then there is a small side room nicknamed the Room of Tears, and this is where the chosen candidate is taken after winning the election to relieve the emotion of the election process. And then the greatest danger posed to the chapel by tourists is invisible to naked eye. So the carbon dioxide and sweat of 25,000 visitors a day. And there is a temperature control machine is developed to counteract this threat. Okay, so before I continue talking, does anybody have any question or concern about just everything that I said? Or just if you're curious to ask something? Yeah. Oh, what is the most important artwork in the chapel? For sure. So I can say that the most important artwork in the chapel are the frescoes painted by Michelangelo, which is the Last Judgment, and it is located on the west, which is the depiction of second coming of Christ and the Last Judgment by God of all humanity. Did I answer it correctly? Yeah. Good? Okay. And that is all for today, guys. I hope that you guys learned something about the Sistine Chapel and would share this information to your friends or family. Does anybody have any question before we end this discussion? No? Okay. And so thank you guys for listening and have a wonderful day.